Throughout the history of the United States, there has been a small group of serial killers that are more known than others. These serial killers are more known than others because of the amount of people that they've killed and the way that they've killed them. One person that isn't very well known is a man by the name of John Joseph Joubert. Joubert was born and raised in Maine and then moved to Bellevue, Nebraska when he was 19 years old. Joubert was in the military and he was stationed at Offutt Air Force Base. Not too long after he moved to Bellevue, he took the lives of two young boys, ages of 12 and 13, just a couple months apart from each other. He kidnapped them, tied them up, and took them to a random location. He then proceeded to stab the boys to death. After the killings, his signature was a bite mark. After he bit them, he then proceeded to try and scratch out the bite marks with a knife. Bellevue is usually a very quiet and small, safe town, so the community was in shock. After a lady got a description of his vehicle when he kidnapped the second victim, they had their first major clue. A couple months after his last killing, Joubert was seen loitering outside of a preschool when confronted by an attendant that was working there. Joubert then proceeded to push her and threaten to kill her. Luckily, she wrote the license plate information down, and it was a rental car that was traced back to Joubert. Joubert was arrested and then confessed to the two murders that he committed in Bellevue. What police didn't know was that he attacked three people when he lived in Maine and killed another boy who was 11 years old. The police in Maine had been looking for the killer for a year. They had a suspect in custody, but he was released soon after they found out about the connection between the killings in Nebraska and the killings in Maine. Joubert was arrested in Nebraska and had a trial following his arrest. The bite marks and the rope were the two things that made it possible for Joubert to get arrested. The rope Joubert used to tie the boys up was a very rare rope. It was a gift from a military friend, and it only came from the Middle East. When cut open, the rope had 113 different strands. When the rope was examined, it was found that the rope that Joubert used to tie the boys up was the same rope that I found in his car. Both Maine and Nebraska agreed to have the trial placed in Nebraska first. Joubert pleaded guilty to killing of two boys in Nebraska. Shortly after pleading guilty, Joubert stated that he had been lied to by the district attorney. He said that the district attorney told him that if he pleaded guilty, he would not pursue sentencing him in a death sentence, and he could have life in prison. After court went through the records, the court found that this statement was false. During the trial in Maine, defense argued that prosecution entered illegal evidence into the trial while he was in prison in Nebraska. There was a journalist/author who was working on a book. He interviews Joubert and then asked if he killed the 11-year-old boy from Maine. He said, "I can't lie to you. I can't say I didn't do it." The defense stated that it was an illegal act because the journalist was working as agent for Nebraska. This violated his 5th and 6th Amendment. But this was not true because the journalist wasn't working for Nebraska. He was actually just a private person working on his own book. He then tried to appeal both his sentence in Maine and his life sentence in Maine and his death sentence in Nebraska. After failed attempts of the appeals, he ended up dying by electric chair in 1996.